To be reincarnated into another world with the promise of a cheat power is one thing, but to be reborn as a baby, and then left for dead after your royal parents think you're powerless? That's another thing entirely. Now the newly born Reinhardt, or Heart to his new friends, must find his way through a dangerous world, but luckily he's got magic that's quite literally off the charts. The episode begins with Haruto, who is sleeping on his bed, saying, "I have lost my purpose and the meaning in my future, living a life without direction." Suddenly, something extraordinary happens. His mobile phone emits an intense light. Haruto then finds himself transported to another world, where a girl awaits him and says, "You have been chosen to be reborn," but Haruto is amazed by this and believes he has died in his room. The girl, seemingly an angel, continues and says, "Magical abilities mean everything in this new world. Therefore, I will bestow upon you superior skills to live a new, easy life. So, try to enjoy everything to the fullest this time." Haruto says to himself, "I understand now. In that case, there's one thing I can ask for, a peaceful and enjoyable life, watching anime and playing all day until I fall asleep without realizing it. Nothing beats that lifestyle." He then agrees, saying, "Alright, I want to be reborn." After that, we see a little child, clearly Haruto, who thinks to himself, "Do I have to start from childhood again?" Then the king and his servants stand before him, amazed by this remarkable boy. The king tells his wife, "What do you think? He is a beautiful prince who resembles us greatly, and he also bears the royal mark on the right side of his chest. There is no doubt. He is our child." Haruto thinks to himself, "This beautiful woman and handsome old man must be my parents. Could it be that I was born into a royal family? Perhaps I'll remain closed off if I turn out to be the eighth in line for succession or something similar." The king speaks and says, "Now let's begin the magical evaluation." And indeed, he is being evaluated by the sorceress. The king says confidently, "I'm sure he will be extremely powerful as me. I defeated the demon king myself." However, Haruto is only at the second level, which surprises the king. The sorceress tells him that he is at the second level and seems to lack any elemental magic. Therefore, he can only use barrier magic. The king exclaims, "How can such a failure be born from my bloodline and that of the Radiant Prince? If this news were to spread, it wouldn't be good. It would cause great anger among my subjects." Then they continued discussing a solution, and they mentioned that the prince died during childbirth. Upon hearing this, Haruto is astonished and says, "Did I really die after being reborn just now? I was surrounded by terrible people in my previous life, and the same thing seems to be happening here." The king orders to get rid of the child quickly by sending him to a distant forest far away from this place. After that, the angel who summoned Haruto goes to her friend and tells her that the boy who was reborn has been given a superior skill, but nobody realizes it. She says that it seems the measuring device in that world only shows 2 digits, and she gave him an extremely high level, which is 1002. After the young Prince Reinhardt is thrown into a distant forest, he speaks to himself, realizing that there is no use in what he does. His power as a child won't take him anywhere, and he finds himself in a great predicament. The girl who granted him magic told him that he can use barrier magic, so he decides to try it. Suddenly, a flash of light turns into a box in the sky, surprising the young prince because he didn't expect magic to be this easy. He can manipulate the size and color of the box using his magic. He then attempts to use magic on himself and successfully levitates inside the box, soaring through the sky. Overjoyed, he realizes that this power is more useful than he initially thought. He wishes for a wild animal to accompany him, and to his surprise, a wolf appears and tries to attack him inside his magical box. However, the wolf is no match for his strong barriers, and the prince retaliates by creating multiple small barriers and using them to fend off the wolf. But it doesn't harm the wolf, as it needs something more significant. Looking around, Reinhardt decides to use his magic to uproot trees and strike the wolf with them. The wolf falls to the ground, but it remains unharmed. Determined, the young prince grabs a large rock and prepares to strike the wolf with it. Terrified, the wolf submits and begs him to wait. Upon hearing its plea, Reinhardt leaves the wolf be and moves on. Then she tells him that she intended to eat him to regain her magical power, unaware of his immense strength. She had no idea who he really was, and he couldn't communicate with her because he was still too young. However, his actions seemed to be based on logical thinking. Haruto becomes frustrated with her constant talking because he couldn't do anything until he thinks of transforming the barrier of thoughts into voices. If he combines it with the ring, he will be able to speak. When he speaks to the dog, she is astonished and asks him who he is. He resembles a newborn human baby, so he tells her his name was Reinhardt, and he was born in a distant kingdom but was abandoned because his magical power was weak. However, the dog tells him that she senses magical power flowing within her that exceeds human limits. The dog is surprised because she believes he has taken the form of the Demon King. Haruto has a conversation with himself, revealing that he was a closed-off and unsuccessful person in his previous life, and he doesn't want to disclose that information to the dog. Then, taking a deep breath with confidence, he tells her that he is indeed the Demon King. The dog believes him and admits her defeat, asking him to kill her. Haruto reassures her that it's an exaggeration and that as long as she doesn't attack him from now on, there's no problem. The dog is relieved and swears her loyalty to him. Haruto finds it impressive that she keeps her promise. After their conversation ends, the child leaves, leaving the dog surprised since she was passing by coincidentally, yet luck smiled upon her. The dog stops him and calls him "my lord," which surprises Haruto. She explains that since he spared her life and gave her a new name, she wants to form a contract between them, dedicating herself entirely to him. Then the dog transforms into a human form so that Haruto wouldn't be afraid of her. She tells him that there is someone nearby, and she intends to kill them. However, Haruto responds by suggesting that they should try talking to the person first and ask about their intentions. He uses his telepathy to enable them to hear each other's thoughts. The man appears, and the dog asks him about his purpose for being there. He replies that he is here for the baby boy. The dog refuses to listen to him without hearing anything else because he was just her master a little while ago, and she feels a sense of loyalty towards Haruto. The man explains that he is a relative and circumstances led to the baby's abandonment, so he came to rescue him. She tells him that it's hard for her to understand their actions and he sadly responds that it could be called compassion, and he thought the baby might be hungry, so he brought milk to feed him. Then the girl, Philia, cries a lot upon hearing this tragic story. The soldier offers her a deal, stating that if she insists on taking the baby as her master, he wants her to be his companion in his daily life. Considering the circumstances, Philia agrees to the offer. He then instructs her to remove her current clothes and dress in different attire. He suggests smearing some blood on her old clothes to create the illusion that the baby has died or been devoured by a wolf, so that anyone who comes by would believe so. After 9 years, we see Haruto has grown up significantly. As for the man who took him in, Margrave Gold, he has taken good care of Haruto, treating him as one of their own. They sit together at a table to have a meal. As for the servant, it is the dog who was previously named Philia by Haruto. She goes out with Margrave Gold's young daughter to play in the garden, as she has grown fond of her. Margrave's wife, who now holds the position of Haruto's mother, approaches him and advises him not to worry about their young daughter, Charlotte. She assures him that with time, Charlotte will love and become accustomed to him, as she is still unsure how to interact with a boy of her age. At that moment, Haruto imagines that Charlotte has discovered he is a man in his 30s and wonders if she has realized it. Then her mother speaks to Haruto, suggesting that he does something special for Charlotte to win her over. If he shows her that he is a dependable person in the right way, Charlotte will come to love him deeply. Afterward, Haruto has an internal conversation with himself. He wants to leave the palace, but he wants Philia to come with him. He realizes that his entire life depends on her being by his side, and if she doesn't stand with him, he has no reason to live. He then reflects that in these 9 years, he has put in a lot of effort to learn many things. He has studied enough about barriers with supernatural abilities that he can now create an exact replica of himself, as demonstrated before you. However, he still cannot make it speak or even move. At that moment, Haruto's father, Margrave Gold, calls him and informs him that from that day on, he will teach him how to use a sword because he needs to further develop his skills to become stronger and be relied upon. Then he tells that the field he is interested in is the study of ancient magic. His father is astonished because ancient magic is considered a mythical era, and his father thought he locked himself in his room and did nothing. Then Haruto wants to escape so as not to exhaust himself in training with the sword. He tells his father that he must return to continue his reading and research. His father stops him and tells him that he may have a talent for wielding the sword, but he will never know unless he tries. Then he throws a wooden sword at him, and Haruto is unable to escape from this situation. They both prepare for a fight. Haruto informs us that his father is a seasoned warrior known as the Warhammer, who is impossible to hit, and he doesn't want to get hurt. So, he decides to use a barrier to compensate for his weak physical abilities. Then Haruto launches a powerful attack on his father, who quickly dodges it, causing the strike to hit the ground and create a large hole due to its intensity. His sword also shatters because he forgot to put a barrier around it. His father is shocked by this terrifying power. Then his father tells him that he will attack him and advises him to try to avoid him. Haruto jumps very high, shocking his father because it is impossible for someone with a level lower than 30 to dodge it. Haruto finds this situation strange because there was a time when his hopes were pinned on something. He created a crystal himself using barrier magic, thinking that his level might be in the hundreds, but he found out that it was only the second level. It is said that level 77 is the highest among all humans, so it is impossible for his level to be in the thousands. The level of magical forces is only 2, and he is sure that he doesn't possess any element. He deduced that his lack of an element that allows him to use magic efficiently must be part of the skills given to him by the great sorceress. They return to reality with combat training with his father, and his father discovers that he has instinctual alertness and moves like a hawk. He tells him that they will continue training and turn him into an elite swordsman. Haruto is annoyed because he was born lazy. On the other hand, we see Haruto's father being very busy, so his wife asks him about the reason. He tells her that he started teaching Haruto how to use the sword today. She asks him how the training went, and he says he thinks Haruto is a reincarnated demon. She is shocked by that and he tells her that he remembered secret royal records about a man who possessed demon-like qualities. Although they are rare, there are people born with demonic traits, but Haruto doesn't have horns or a tail. However, it is said that the royal mark carries a strange power that we still don't know, and it is possible that the secret lies in manifesting his demon-like nature, just like Philly. She gets upset by his words and tells him that Haruto is just a normal child, nothing more. Her husband reassures her that it's just his speculation and that no matter what happens, they will ensure their son lives a happy life. On the other hand, we see his sister saying, "It's impossible for my brother to be a demon." So, is it possible that Haruto is a demon and will transform into his original form, or is he a transformed human? Haruto, who is in his room, thinking about his father. He seems preoccupied lately, and he hears the servants rushing to gather all the bandages and disinfectants they have. Curiosity piqued, he uses his powers and discovers a commotion outside. He finds numerous security guards injured and quickly rushes to see what's happening. The commander instructs the servants to summon all those capable of using their healing magic, with top priority given to treating the critically injured patients. Haruto then goes to his father, questioning him about what happened. The father tries to keep it a secret from his son, but there has been a wave of attacks led by thieves in their region. They received information about their base and were heading there when they fell into an ambush. They were extremely cautious and made all necessary preparations, but unfortunate events unfolded. The king vows not to spare any of them for what they did to his men, and we see the soldiers in a mournful state, deeply immersed in their own blood, suffering from multiple wounds. The king asks his son to return to his room, not wanting him to witness such a horrifying scene at his young age. Haruto becomes frustrated by this and returns to his room. Flay, a companion, speaks to him, and he asks her not to stay silent. He wasn't in a state where he could speak at that moment. He leaves her and goes back to his room. At that time, Haruto uses his healing magic to treat all the wounds secretly, without anyone knowing what he's doing. Everyone is amazed and overjoyed by the miraculous recovery, and they quickly heal. During the night, Haruto wakes up feeling someone standing outside his room. He goes out and sees Flay, asking her what she's doing there. He recalls when he told her to stay silent and apologizes for losing his composure back then. He asks her to forgive him for what they have been through. Flay responds, stating that she insulted him with all she had but doesn't know the reason for his anger. Then Haruto takes her to the castle's rooftop to search for the thieves who ambushed them. When Haruto looks at the screens he has, he discovers that those men gathered there are the thieves themselves. It turns out this place is where the ambush took place, and they fear the presence of any spies within the castle. Haruto decides to take Flay to that location, using his powers to fly with her. Later, we see the thieves celebrating and congratulating each other for what they accomplished. They wanted to hold a celebration, but they wouldn't do it until they captured the king and killed him, so they could return to their homeland. At that moment, Haruto appears before them. When they see him, they ask who he is. Haruto uses his power to immobilize them with barriers, preventing them from moving. He asks them to answer his questions truthfully, warning them that if they lie, they will pay the price. Haruto learns from them that they are soldiers from the neighboring empire. They infiltrated the kingdom disguised as thieves with the aim of causing internal chaos, despite the presence of border guards. They inform him that they had a partner they didn't know, and they decided to abandon their mission to avoid Haruto's interference. Haruto realizes that this person must have a greater authority than his father to orchestrate all this. He ponders who in the kingdom would want to kill his father but can't figure it out. He thanks the men for their information, but their words hold no sway over him. He asks Flay to set the entire fortress on fire. The men become frightened because they were only following orders, but Haruto doesn't listen to their pleas. He declares that in the end, they are his father's enemies, and he cannot let them escape. Flay ignites the fortress, and they all scream, hoping someone will come to their aid. Then they retreat, leaving the scene. Afterward, Haruto tells Flay that he doesn't know much about the Imperial soldiers or the conflicts between nations, but they initiated this fight. He feels compelled to show mercy and decides to send an anonymous message to his father, explaining what happened today. The next morning, we see Haruto reading the message, saying they confirmed that the thieves in the fortress were eliminated, as stated in the message. It's unclear how many of them managed to escape, but those they captured testify to it. The king realizes that they were not ordinary thieves but didn't expect the involvement of the empire. His fears have come true. Charlotte approaches Haruto, asking who took charge of the villains. He tells her that it all leads to one person, someone with power, mercilessness, and control over fire. It becomes evident that he means Flay, whose power surpasses his own and roams the region, asserting dominance over monsters. Haruto thinks that the incident must have occurred during one of her expeditions. Charlotte quickly rushes to Flay to ask if there are two of them, as she saw two figures resembling Flay and her brother flying at night. However, she knows her brother doesn't possess enough mana to fly. She checks his room, finding him asleep, but without his usual terrifying aura. Charlotte tells her that Haruto possesses a tremendous power and received boundless strength since childhood, surpassing human limits to the extent that even a demon like her has no hope of surpassing him. In other words, Haruto's awe-inspiring power is the reason for her excessive concern. Later on, while Haruto is reading a book, Charlotte stands behind a door, observing him intently. On the sixth day, while her mother and Charlotte are at the swimming pool with Haruto, Charlotte watches the scene from a distance. Then it's lunchtime, and Haruto informs Margrave that his mother and Charlotte are going on a trip. There is a secondary festival held annually, which they love attending. Usually, Haruto would go, but this year they will go instead of him since he's a bit tired. Haruto tells them to take Flay with them to assist them, but he recalls that he sent her to the forest to fight some monsters. At that moment, Charlotte looks at Haruto in a strange way. Afterward, Haruto goes to his room and while he's sleeping, the alarm system suddenly activates again. It's the surveillance barrier he set on Charlotte, and he believes there's some danger. We now shift our focus to Natalia-sama and Charlotte as they are being pursued by a group of highwaymen who have already killed the soldiers and guards accompanying them. In a desperate attempt to escape, Charlotte's mother flees, carrying her young daughter, but the relentless pursuers show no mercy. Despite their relentless attacks, Charlotte's mother bravely defends herself, until suddenly, one blow strikes her leg. Distressed, Charlotte informs her mother about the path they should take. Her mother is astonished by Charlotte's knowledge and asks if someone guided her. Eventually, they reach the end of the road, and in order to evade their enemies, Charlotte's mother is forced to jump down below. With the last ounce of her strength, she leaps, utilizing her power. However, she is on the verge of depletion. Charlotte reassures her mother that they almost reached their destination and there should be a hiding place nearby. Her confidence in a heroic justice figure who will come to their aid gives her hope. Charlotte instructs her to wait in the spot while she goes to find the mysterious person who guided them earlier, convinced they are close by. Filled with fear for her mother's safety, tears stream down Charlotte's face, but her mother consoles her, urging her not to worry and promising to return to her soon. With a heavy heart, Charlotte watches her mother leave the cave swiftly. However, she notices something peculiar when she extends her hand towards the wall and it passes through, an illusionary magic wall, an advanced form of magic. Just as Charlotte realizes the presence of their pursuers, who are determined to kill her, a strange occurrence takes place. As her mother is about to take her own life to divert their attention from Charlotte, a burst of magic disintegrates the sword just in time. Haruto, standing behind her, catches her before she falls unconscious. In a fit of rage, he unleashes his immense power upon the attackers, pinning them to the trees. Meanwhile, Charlotte, with her face turned away and struggling to contain her breath, sheds tears of terror. Haruto calls out to her, reassuring her that her mother is safe. Unaware that it is Haruto who is speaking to her, Charlotte, who has lost consciousness, fails to comprehend his words. As she regains consciousness and exits the cave, she finds Haruto standing at the entrance. Surprised by their conversation, she asks if he is the hero of justice. Haruto is taken aback, as this is their first interaction, but he finds her question so unexpected that it momentarily stuns him. Haruto assures her that he is indeed the hero of justice and informs her that he possesses powers to deal with villains. Charlotte reveals that her mother had told her about the hero of justice, someone who punishes wrongdoers, and she admits that she had been mistaken about Haruto all this time. She urges him to keep their conversation a secret, as no one should know his true identity. She emphasizes that he may have to deceive her father. Subsequently, they arrive at the palace, where Haruto informs the group that Natalia and Charlotte are unharmed and have joined them. The guard's personal security detail has suffered injuries, but thanks to the unknown hero who saved them, they are safe. Marjorie Gold, overwhelmed with gratitude, expresses his desire to thank the hero who saved them, although he doesn't intend to reveal his own identity. Turning to Haruto, he seeks his opinion on the matter. Haruto confidently states that as long as their conduct remains good, he will stand by their side. Marjorie Gold reveals that Charlotte has bestowed upon him the title of Hero of Justice. Haruto responds by saying that if more soldiers from the Imperial Army pretend to be thieves and attack them, he is confident he will take care of them for the sake of everyone. Marjorie Gold expresses his surprise, questioning why the real thieves aren't stealing from the country since they targeted Haruto's mother. Marjorie Gold suggests that they might have infiltrated the region before the increase in security, suspecting the possibility of betrayal from within their ranks. Haruto, amused by the situation, jokingly remarks that sometimes he can't believe he's only 9 years old. Suddenly, Charlotte and Natalia enter the room, and Marjorie Gold embraces them, expressing his relief that they are safe. Charlotte then approaches her brother and embraces him, causing Natalia to question when they became so affectionate. Charlotte reassures her not to worry and reveals that she loves her brother. This angers the red-haired girl, who demands that Charlotte stop and keep her hands off Haruto. Haruto in his room when his sister, Charlotte, enters. She wants him to play with her, so he asks her to knock on the door next time she comes, as she visits him every day. He doesn't know how to deal with her since she has become so attached to him, but he enjoys the feeling of someone caring about him. Charlotte then notices a list on her brother's desk and asks him about it. He tells her that it's a protection spell, an ancient magic with no remaining information. Charlotte informs him that there is information about it in the castle's library and offers to take him there to get the books he needs. When Haruto sees the grand library, he is amazed by its beauty. He starts reading the books and discovers that his barrier magic is connected to the ancient magic in certain aspects. Charlotte tells him that the ancient magic is filled with many things, but this particular book is the most intriguing. Haruto is surprised that she has read these books and she asks him to read them to her since her mother and Fly didn't help her understand them. Haruto agrees and begins reading, informing her that there are many people who can travel between different worlds. He remembers seeing this in an anime he hasn't watched in a long time, and Charlotte asks him about the anime and its genre. Haruto realizes it would take a long time to explain, but Charlotte insists on him telling her about it. She is determined to understand him, even if she doesn't understand everything he says, and Haruto is happy to see her enthusiasm. After 2 weeks, Haruto's plan succeeds as he manages to get modern internet access and creates a kid's account for Charlotte. He lets her watch anime, and she is amazed by the magical device that allows her to do so. Haruto asks her to choose an anime to watch, and he plays the anime video, increasing her astonishment. He is delighted to see her so happy, even though she doesn't understand the words spoken by the characters. She wants him to teach her the Japanese language, and he sits with her, introducing her to the symbols and their meanings. Haruto is amazed when she manages to understand both languages in just 2 hours, even learning many words from elementary school years. Charlotte informs Haruto that she wants to watch an anime about zombies and justice heroes protecting civilians because it is very exciting. Haruto realizes that his sister learned Japanese from anime and became proficient in the language, possibly even a genius after watching so much. Charlotte is overjoyed to watch the anime and wants to watch the second episode, but Haruto refuses. He tells her that he won't let her binge watch and suggests they limit her TV time to 3 hours a day because it's not healthy for children. Charlotte becomes saddened by Haruto's words. That night, their father asks if Charlotte spends a lot of time with Haruto, and she tells him they are studying ancient magic together. We see Haruto at the swimming pool with Charlotte, and she notices the symbol on his chest, realizing that he is the justice hero. Haruto tells her it's a secret, and he needs to conceal his identity as a hero. They go to sleep together. The next morning, the king announces his plan to put an end to the thieves, and Charlotte becomes upset. Haruto assures her that this time the thieves are not targeting the public, and his father should handle it alone due to power struggles in the kingdom. Charlotte asks if there is a way for everyone to live happily, and Haruto explains that it's not as easy as she thinks. Then Charlotte pleads with Haruto to do that. She wants him to join the fight and use his superpowers to combat enemies and thieves. At that moment, Haruto transforms into a superhero, just like Charlotte sees in the anime. Charlotte is extremely happy that he was able to transform and tells him she wants to go with him. However, he tells her it's impossible because he is very worried about her. He then presents her with a screen through which she can watch and monitor everything he does. On the other hand, we see Haruto in the sky using his skills to search for these thieves. After a short search, he easily finds them and uses a barrier to prevent their escape. He approaches them and informs them that he is the superhero of justice, but they don't hesitate to attack him. However, Haruto is very powerful and defeats them one by one. At this time, their father, Margrave Gold, arrives, but of course, he doesn't recognize this transformed boy as his son. Margrave Gold introduces himself, proud of this boy who was able to defeat these thieves single-handedly. When Margrave Gold asks about Haruto's involvement in saving his wife and daughter, Haruto becomes very flustered and struggles to respond. Margrave Gold then asks if he was responsible for rescuing them, but Haruto answers that he doesn't remember. He is a hero who wants to achieve justice, help those in need, and fight against enemies. He then quickly leaves. At night, Haruto finally goes back home, but he is very exhausted. His sister, Charlotte, tells him that he was amazing, and she thinks about him day and night as if he were a superhero. In the morning of the next day, we see Haruto extremely happy because he finally completed his perfect replica and it can move and speak just like him. He programmed it with all the necessary information using the city library and the old books. Haruto worked tirelessly to create this replica and gather a lot of information to make it as perfect as possible, resembling him in many ways, even in his behavior. But something strange happens. Charlotte slept next to him, and when she wakes up, she finds two identical versions of her brother. She is shocked and doesn't know who the original one is. On the other hand, we see Margrave Gold receiving some guests. Haruto realizes that these two princes are his real brothers, and the young prince becomes angry because Haruto ignored him. Haruto's father apologizes for his behavior, and Charlotte tells Haruto to stop and not forget his noble manners. The young prince, however, insults Charlotte, saying that she is just a political tool and they are not equals. The prince challenges Haruto to a sword fight, claiming that he will teach him proper behavior. They go to the arena, and Haruto is frustrated with this person. The prince boasts about his skills and tells Haruto to resist his attacks if he can. Haruto uses a self-enhancement technique to avoid feeling the blows when the prince strikes him. The prince becomes even more enraged and tries to hit him again, but Haruto swiftly moves and strikes him on the head, causing the prince to fall to the ground. The prince is furious and attacks Haruto once more, but Haruto strikes him again, causing the prince to collapse. Charlotte is surprised to see that Haruto is only at level 2, as her brother's level is higher. Despite this, the prince's level is still higher than their father's and Charlotte's. The prince becomes even angrier and unleashes a powerful magic attack, hitting Haruto with a fireball. However, Haruto effortlessly absorbs the magic. The prince is shocked because a level 2 person shouldn't be able to use advanced magic like that. Haruto taunts the prince, asking if he wants his fireballs back, and then releases them all at once, terrifying the prince, who falls to the ground in fear. Haruto absorbs the magic once again. Charlotte tells the prince to stop and not embarrass himself further. Haruto tells her that he can absorb any magic. The prince is horrified and falls to the ground, defeated. Afterward, Charlotte apologizes to Haruto for the prince's arrogance, but Haruto tells her there's no need to apologize. She asks if he is really at level 2, and he confirms it. He takes his leave and realizes that the royal capital knows he is at level 2, and his real parents must have been searching for him but abandoned him without hesitation. He doesn't believe they would do that. Charlotte looks at live security footage from Hart's camera at the castle and sees a suspicious person in the middle of the forest. So, she tells her older brother about it, and Hart sees that these people look like thieves. Hart tells us that his sister Charlotte has recently become very obsessed with patrolling their land because she thinks Hart is busy doing other things. Flay Bars is in the room asking Hart if he is hurt because she heard from Charlotte, the little girl, that he has been facing bad people by himself lately. Flay offers to help him with his brave work from now on, and she asks him again to bring her along. Charlotte also thinks it would be a good idea for Flay to join Hart, but he doesn't like the idea because he thinks she will just be a bother to an overpowered hero like him. So he tries to get Flay to change her mind by asking her if she is not busy. He tells her that she needs to do what the castle lord has asked her to do, but Flay tells him that she has already done today's job, which was to clean the whole courtyard, and that she has also managed to keep the demons in this area under control. So Hart starts to think about what he can say to get out of taking Flay with him. Charlotte is happy to hear that Flay is going to fight bandits, and she starts to think of herself as a hero too. Charlotte tells them that she has heard stories about heroes having partners or psychics who help them out of trouble, so she also wants Flay to be the partner of Hart, the hero of justice. Flay couldn't agree more, and she says that even though she isn't as strong as Hart, she can still help him a little since both she and Charlotte want Hart. He has no other choice but to hire Flay as his psychic. He takes Flay away for a private talk and tells her that the only reason he is not taking her with him is because she is too rough with her opponents, which is not very kid-friendly. So he tells Flay to fight less aggressively in battle because he doesn't want Charlotte to see any bloody scenes. Flay gets it, so they start on their way to find the 4 thieves. While this is going on, the four thieves are talking about how they won't be hungry for a few days because they have a lot of money. Heart comes in as a hero and tells the thieves that he is the dark warrior of this world and that he wants to get rid of the darkness. As the thieves start to wonder who this clown is, another clown comes out from behind them calling herself the Red Warrior, but it's just Flay and Heart. Flay decides to put an end to this right away and uses her fire magic to burn all of the burglars. Heart stops her just in time by reminding her that Charlotte can't see any blood. But Flay still burns the thieves, so Heart puts a barrier around the burned thieves so Flay's attacks can't hurt them anymore. Flay doesn't realize that her master is blocking her attacks in midair, so she uses stronger fire magic to break down the shield that the burglars are using. But before she can do that, Heart punches her in the head and tells her again that the scene can't be violent. Still, Flay doesn't get what Heart is saying, so she uses her magic to burn the burglars. Heart can't take this idiot sitting next to him any longer, so he tells Flay to leave right away. Flay thinks that Heart wants to beat the thieves himself, so instead of going back to the castle, she stays with him. Heart goes home after dealing with the burglars and flops down on his bed to rest. He can't believe that his maid is so stupid, so he decides to go to sleep. But Charlotte won't let him have a moment of peace. She comes to his room to tell him how good he and Flay looked when they fought the bad guys. Even though the fight just ended, Charlotte tells them that she wants to see them fight again, and Flay promises to put on a good show for her next time. Heart decides that he will never again bring Flay with him because she could ruin his whole reputation as Charlotte's older brother. In the meantime, Charlotte shows Flay a signature move she can use against the bad guys and tells her in detail how to do it. Heart can't take any more of this stupidity, so he wonders when he'll be able to live in peace again. On the other side, Crown Prince Leia hits his pillow because he can't stand how embarrassing it is to lose to Heart. He doesn't understand why things went so wrong, since he's supposed to be the next king who gets the Shining Princess's bloodline. So he only tried to fight Heart to show Heart's family how powerful he is. But then things went bad. Soleus wonders again how a level 2 mage like Heart can be so strong. Even though he doesn't want to, he gets dressed and heads to the hall to meet Leia for dinner. The minister then tells Leia to invite Charlotte to tomorrow's convention, since he will need someone to talk to on the road. But Leia says he doesn't need to talk to anyone else, so the minister makes it clear that it's directly from His Majesty. Soleus doesn't have any other choice. Gold's castle is also ready for dinner, so Charlotte calls her older brother Heart. She says she's sorry she didn't knock, but Heart is used to it, so he heads to the dining hall quietly. Heart notices how nice the dishes look while his clone complains about how hard Heart makes him work all day. The clone feels useless and starts to feel sad, so he jumps on the bed to cry by himself. Heart keeps eating his food because he thinks nothing is wrong. Charlotte tells him that she will be at tomorrow's inspection and that she just got a personal invitation to go there from the prince. Park can't let the stupid prince follow around his little sister, so he goes to the inspection himself. He thinks about what he should do and how he should get ready for tomorrow at night. He first checks the way to the inspection to see if there are any traps that could cause trouble. Then he sees a large group of evil mages using a summoning circle. It's clear to Heart that these mages are up to no good. Heart decides to go see what these mages are trying to call up, so he heads over there right away dressed as the Dark Warrior and asks one of them what they are doing. When the other mage sees an imposter among them, they get angry right away, so they decide to kill Heart. But Heart kills them with one blow of his magic from another world and shows them where they belong. One of the mages who made it through the attack gives his life to finish the evil summon circle, which then calls up dozens of undead soldiers. But Heart doesn't get scared. Instead, he pulls out his sword and starts slashing them one by one. Heart is the strongest, so the skeletons try to surround him, but it doesn't help. When the evil mages see that this plan isn't working, they call up a huge rock golem to attack Heart. But he finds the golem's weak spot, attacks its spirit core, and changes the spell so that both the skeletons and the golem are now on his side. Then Heart caught everyone and asked the group's leader why they were doing this, but the leader didn't answer. So Heart makes the decision to bury them all alive if they won't tell him the truth. As the members of this group of magicians start pleading for their lives, their leader finally speaks up. He says that they are the summoner unit working directly for the elder princess and that they were planning to start a fight at tomorrow's inspection. Hart asks them why they would do that, and the leader tells him that they want to kill Charlotte. Zephyr's heart doesn't understand why the elder princess wants to kill Charlotte. He figures out that she must have seen Charlotte as a threat because Charlotte has the potential to be better than even the royal elder princess. Hart finally understands why Imperial soldiers attacked both his father and mother in Charlotte. The Empress is willing to give up anything to keep her position, and since Hart's family could be a threat to her, she doesn't want them to live. Hart first shows his anger to the leader, but then he realizes that going crazy doesn't help and that he should calm down. The next day, Hart and Charlotte go to the inspection with the prince and princess. Charlotte brings up the fact that Leia lost to Hart the day before. Hart tries to ease the tension Charlotte is causing, but that just makes Leia madder. Leia calms down and says that Hart didn't use any elemental magic in their duel. He thinks Hart might be a reborn demon because he can't figure out how Hart's magic works any other way. Hart doesn't know what Leia means, so he asks Charlotte what demon reincarnation is. Charlotte explains that if a demon and a human get married and have a child, that child has a very small chance of having demonic traits and looks like a human, even though they have demonic powers. Marion agrees with Charlotte's explanation and adds that the demi-demons are very strong and have great athletic skills. Marion doesn't think Hart is half-demon because he doesn't have horns and his eyes and ears don't look different. Charlotte thinks she should also help describe Hart. She says that Hart's body feels very smooth and delicate. She says with pride that she showers with him a lot and knows how his body looks because of it. When Leia and Marion hear that, it makes them feel weird, so they call Hart a scumbag for taking a shower with his own sister. Hart tries to explain, but since he knows there's no point, he stays quiet. Charlotte doesn't know what's wrong, so she asks Leia if she shouldn't shower with her brother. Marion tries to tell her that men and women showing each other their skin has a deeper meaning, but she can't say anything else because her brain is too full of feelings. The conversation ends when the carriage gets to its destination, which is a relief. After getting out of the carriage, the group is amazed by the beauty of a large field of golden wheat. Charlotte runs right into the field to have fun, and Marion follows her. They both have fun while they are together. Hart goes to his father's room to talk to him alone and tells him that the elder princess wants to kill Charlotte. Gold says that he already knows this because the Dark Warrior told him about the evil group of mages' plan to hurt Charlotte in a message yesterday. Hart tells Gold that they should just get rid of the elder princess because Gold doesn't know what to do. Gold tells him not to think that way because the country needs the elder princess right now to protect the place of the sick king. In other words, if the elder princess died, the country would have a lot of trouble. Gold tells Hart that 12 years ago, the king led a group of crusaders, and one of them, G. Salati, killed the demon king all by himself. Because of that, the king married her, and now she is the elder princess. She is greedy and wants the kingdom for herself. Gold, on the other hand, thinks that things will get better when someone bigger than the queen stands up to her. Hart asks Gold to be the next king if that happens, but Gold says he is not good at politics or running the country. But Gold thinks Charlotte will be better than him and hopes that one day she will be able to lead the country. Gold tells Hart to keep his sister safe until she becomes queen. That's all for now. Did you like this quick review? If you did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can tell you what happens in the next parts of this anime series. Stay safe and take care until we meet again.